Hello and welcome. My name is Zafar Iqbal and you are watching the Mojo Story. Supreme Court in a 4:3 verdict has overturned a 1967 ruling that denied Aligarh Muslim University minority status as it was created by a statute. The bench was led by Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, who on his last working day gave that ruling. A regular bench will now decide the minority status of Aligarh Muslim University for the factual determination whether it was established by a minority. Now, Chief Justice wrote the majority judgment today, and Justice Suryakant, Dipankar Datta, and S.C. Sharma dissented. Well, this is the topic that we'll be discussing today, and we are joined by an eminent panel to discuss this. We'll be joined uh, by Anurag Naidu. He joins us. He's a political analyst. Welcome to the show, Anurag ji. And we're also joined by Lieutenant General Zamiruddin Shah, the former Vice Chancellor of the Aligarh Muslim University. Welcome to Mojo Story, sir. I may start with you, Lieutenant General Zamiruddin Shah Sahab. The thing is that given the long-standing debate over the Aligarh Muslim University's origin, could you provide an insight, first of all, that how the university's foundational identity aligns with its claim to being a minority status institute?
The founder, Sir Syed, always wanted to establish a university, but that took a lot of time. So he founded the MAO College, Mohammedan
Yes.
Oriental, which subsequently all its assets and everything was made into the Aligarh Muslim University in 1920.
Right.
The majority of the funds and the lands were
Yeah.
given by Muslims. It's not only them, there were others who contributed,
Yeah.
but the majority of it came from Muslims and it has been administered by the Muslims ever since. In 1967, a gentleman called Aziz Basha, who was from Kerala, took up a case unrelated to AMU. I'm forgetting what it was about, but
You're
it
right.
was totally unrelated. AMU was not a party.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the High Court in 1967 linked it with Aziz Basha case and ruled that AMU is not a minority institution. So after that, we've been fighting continuously to get this judgment set aside because it made no sense. The majority of the assets of the Mayo, in fact, all the assets of Mayo College, the teachers, everything was transferred and made into Aligarh Muslim University. So this Aziz
Yeah.
Basha case was totally unrelated. It made
Yeah.
no sense as to why a ruling was given that AMU is not a minority institution.
So, how do you see today's judgment? Do you see it as a victory for the Aligarh Muslim University people who have been pleading for that case, or you see that it is just a step now that it is going to go to another bench, which will finally decide upon the genesis, upon the origins of the university?
I think it was a very fair judgment. There are no victors or vanished. We were
Right,
fighting for rights, and the rights have been given.
right,
To call it a victory, I don't think so. It is something which AMU deserved to get, and I would say, and that the judgment was only restricted to the appeal by the AMU. That means you set aside the Aziz Basha case, which has been set aside. Quite rightly, the Supreme Court has given the three-judge bench to ascertain whether
right.
AMU was in fact a minority institution. There are very
Yeah,
various, uh, you know, uh, uh, the requirements to be a minority institution. I'm certain. I've been vice chancellor. We have got all the records of who contributed what
right.
was the land, what was the money given as security, and other thing else. The
Yeah,
point which I've been stressing, and I've asked detractors, is how did India gain independence? Was it by an act of parliament? Yes, but who fought for it? it was our freedom fighters. The same way, the AMU was established under an act of the British Parliament, but who raised money, who fought for it? I think it was largely the citizens of India, but primarily the Muslim community.
Anuragji, what are your first thoughts after today's ruling? How do you see this development? Because this case has been going on for a long time, and we've seen a step forward today. How do you see it?
Well, yeah, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. I was going through the tweets while the Honorable former Vice Chancellor was speaking, and I could see, there's been several attempts already to, kind of claim a moral victory, claim some sort of a vindication of the stand, but both sides. One side said, Abhi to kuch hua nahi hai. The other side said, ho gaya, we are very hopeful because the direction is very clear. Like the
Right.
former Vice Chancellor said, the direction is clear that you need to ascertain based on the historical facts. And if majority of the facts are already on record, documented, there is important thing what I really feel is there are two aspects which has to be taken into consideration, and my reading of the judgment or my reading of today's observation is that who runs or who governs the institution by virtue of investing in the current, I mean, I would say in the last, even if you say take not just 1877 but 1920 onwards, who has been investing in operating this university. And of course, the second issue is who has established it and what were the objectives when it was established, right? These are two very important things.
Right.
While
Yes.
ascertaining that who established and the objectives behind that is one aspect, but also what will come into discussion in the due course, what I can tell you for sure, is for the last several years, as a central government incubated university, it's a central
Right.
institution today, right? It has a development of close to 1,200 acres. And Honorable
Right.
Vice
Yeah.
Chancellor can correct me. Close to 30,000 students and a lot of funds from the center are invested. That's why it's one of the top 20 institutes for research. So who really gets to be a part of this entire ecosystem today? Now we have moved way beyond 1920, right? So we're today in 2024. Do we
Yeah.
really need to make it a typical minority status, or can we open it to everyone else? What is the need and what can be a solution? This is for the three judges bench, and I think it's rightfully so. They need to ascertain, go into the factual details, and I'm sure it will open to some very healthy discussion. And I'm sure politics should be kept aside in this case,
Right.
matter pertaining to the university. It should be absolutely fact based and argumentative.
Absolutely. Let us hear Justice Chandrachud when he was reading out that judgment. Let's just hear it and then we can speak further.
The courts must identify the circumstances surrounding the incorporation of the university, including a thorough reading of the statute, including through a reading of the statute, to identify who established the university. Formalism must give way to actuality and to what is real. The right under Article 31 is guaranteed to minorities as defined upon the commencement of the Constitution. A different right-bearing group cannot be identified for institutions established before the adoption of the Constitution. To determine who established the Constitution, the courts must consider the genesis of the educational institution. For this analysis, the courts must trace the origin of the idea for the establishment of the institution. The court must identify who was the brain behind the establishment of the educational institution. Letters, correspondence with other members of the community, or with government or state officials, and resolutions issued could be valid proof for establishing ideation or the impetus to found and establish.
Lieutenant General Zamiruddin Shah Saab, I was just thinking, what is the basic need for having a minority institution? Because how does retaining a minority status impact universities' curriculum, its mission, its values, its inclusivity of students, both Muslim and non-Muslim students? What difference does it make?
Let me first clarify that AMU is open to students of all communities who
Right.
qualify for the examination. I accept that the majority of the students are Muslim because courses like Urdu, Arabic, Persian, Quranic studies, Islamic studies, nobody opts for them. But if you look at courses like medicine, management, engineering, The ratio is about 50-50. Sometimes it varies, it becomes 45-55. Now, why is it important? Let me tell you that because of poverty, Muslim students cannot afford the expense of institutions of higher learning. This is a plain fact. Our engineering college, the Zakir Hussain College of Engineering and Technology, charges only 5,000 rupees a month for the
Yeah.
engineering degree course.
Hmm.
So it is vital that till the poverty of Muslims is reduced, nobody can deny the fact that we are steeped in poverty, we are largely uneducated, and we need a boost of a minority institution to educate our youngsters. Once we have joined the mainstream, once a large number have been educated, I would say that the need for a minority institution would not be there. At the present moment, the, it is necessary to have a minority institution to give Muslim youngsters, and of course, a large segment of other communities also a chance to study at reasonable expenditure in an institution of higher learning.
But sir, in any case, they have to pass the entrance examination. How does it matter? Because if it is to help the Muslim community, even then only those people will get help who will pass the entrance examination, because that has to be passed first. It's not an open gate.
I agree. But look at the statistics. Look at the IIMs, IITs, everything else, the prestigious engineering colleges. What is the Muslim population? Uh, Somebody says 12%, somebody says 14%. I would say that Muslims who qualify and who can afford it hardly varies 2%. So that means there's an immediate need to push or to give, I would say it is affirmative action which is required to educate the Muslim community. Aligarh Muslim University and university like Jamia and others are absolutely essential to give Muslim students a chance to qualify in medicine, engineering, and other things. I think it's vital, and I think Aligarh Muslim University, to a large extent, has served the purpose. Look at the the Muslims who are in well placed in India. They are
Yeah.
products, most of them are products of Aligarh Muslim University. Had the university not existed, I'm afraid there would have nobody. There would have been nobody leading lawyers, leading filmmakers, leading musicians. All these are studied in AMU. And I think the affirmative action is required and needs to be carried on.
Anuragji, the point that Lieutenant General Zamiruddin Shah Sahab is making is that most people, Muslims at good positions, at top positions, are actually a product of Aligarh Muslim University. The point is that you touched upon public funding. How should public funding not be considered for minority run institutions? What is the link? Even if it's public, if it's a minority institution, how does it matter? Public funding goes to that where citizens, boys and girls of this country, appear in an entrance examination and then get a seat in the university.
A clear opinion about it. What I feel is the matter of AMU particularly has been politicized and particularly has been emotionally linked. What I strongly believe, yes, as Lieutenant General rightly said, Muslim community, our brothers and sisters, have been, deprived of a lot of economic, prosperity over the years, and they've really. And I was there in several debates over the last 2 weeks on the Waqf, issue,
Yeah.
and Waqf being the third largest property holding organization in terms of land ownership, represents a community that is one of the poorest in India. And that's a very unfortunate situation. That means there is something we're not doing correct at the basics of it. And what I
Yeah.
believe is poverty cannot be an index of getting an admission into a higher education institution. Particularly, I can point out medical courses and certain courses which are linked to serving the society by and large. Merit, yes. What we should invest on is giving them more scholarship. What we should
Yeah.
invest them in supporting them financially. I would
Yeah.
rather vouch for the fact that they should waive off the entire fee. I mean, make it absolutely free. But that's how you can support them. Give them coaching institutes, incubate them so that they're prepared enough to get admission into this prestigious universities like AMU and Jamia. So I think this is where we have to look at now. Just by opening or calling it, giving it a minority status, giving a 50% reservation, I mean, that's up for the courts to decide, and we all should welcome it. But I would say the problem would still be unsolved. The problem will only get solved when you invest at the right level and incubate that for a period of time. And that's when you will do justice. And of course, like you mentioned, the investment made by the government of India, when it is a central institute, it is a general preference. It doesn't matter. I mean, it may still be a minority state. That's fine. But I would say some of the courses that you can pick and choose, like, Lieutenant General rightly mentioned, there are certain courses in Urdu and Islamic studies, which may be a preference of the community to learn, which is an absolutely beautiful thing because everyone should study their culture and everything. But I think there are certain other courses which probably need a bit more emphasis on and focus or prioritization on the skilling and the technical know-how and the talent, real talent, because that's when you come out to the world and serve as doctors and engineers. So I think that's where merit should not be compromised. And of course, you can substitute that with heavy scholarship or waiving of the fee totally.
That's a fair point, Lieutenant General Zamiruddin Shah Sahab. The point that he's making, that is opening up. You talked about some courses, Urdu, Persian, Islamic studies, comparative religions. But there is another school of thought that this opening up, there can be emphasis put on merit and some other things that can be introduced. It is, if you look at it positively, it is not so bad. It's not bad at all, in fact.
Can I come in, please?
Yeah.
I do agree that poverty should not be an index for courses like medicine, engineering, and everything else. But what happens to a family who cannot afford to send they've got bright kids, they're doing excellent work, they're very good in studies, but they can't afford to go to an institution of higher learning?
Yeah.
AMU provided that inlet for.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying there's only poverty. It is quality also. I've said they've got to qualify in the written examination for entrance. So people who cannot afford it, AMU gives the opportunity for the brilliant students who cannot afford education in an institution of higher learning. AMU provides it.
Right. And Anuragji pointed, yes, Anuragji, I let you
One very
come in.
quick
But
point.
yeah, okay.
There's actually one positive aspect of what Lieutenant General was saying. How we can actually frame this argument is, yes, we need this reservation in a way to push the entire community of the students, the bright students of this community, to elevate them. Yes, we are giving them certain benefit which is out of the line, but that may be one attempt to push them out into a better life for the next generation. Give them an incubation. That can be one way, certainly. Yeah.
Right. And General Saab, the point is that he raised the issue about Waqf board and the Waqf property. Despite having such a large chunk of property and, assets, you still have to have this institution where you say that Muslim boys and girls who cannot afford, they find an opportunity there. Isn't that the problem really that need to be addressed, looking at the larger picture than at the smaller picture?
See, the Waqf, the assets of the Waqf need to be properly utilized. I think their primary purpose should be upliftment of the community, primarily education. Unfortunately, I don't think that is happening to a large extent. Yes, they are. I mean, I've got a school on Waqf property, which is looking after students in Ratol, the impoverished first generation learners. So there are a large number of educational institutions on Waqf properties. However, I think the stress of Waqf should be primarily on uplifting the Muslim community through education. This is important, and I think this needs to be addressed, and I'm sure it will be done.
Right. In fact, the some of the reporters also asked the vice chancellor, the current vice chancellor, about her thoughts about what about today's ruling. Let's hear that, and then we can continue our discussion.
Honor the judgment, that's all. We will wait and we will discuss with our expert for the next course of action. With our legal experts, we will discuss and we'll wait for the next course of action, and we will have discussion with our legal experts. We have a team of legal experts.
मैम 3 जज की बेंच को प्रेफर कर दिया, बोला है कि 3 जज बेंच डिसाइड करेंगी और माइनॉरिटी स्टेटस अभी है या नहीं है, इस पे आप थोड़ा कंफ्यूजन।
So you all have heard the decision, so I also have the same decision. So I have nothing to say anything. So there is no comment on that. So we will discuss with our team of legal experts. And
मैम सिर्फ ये तो कह सकते हैं कि जो एमयू जो जिस हिसाब से रन कर रहा था वो हमें अभी फिलहाल रन करता रहेगा।
हाँ, उसी तरह रहेगा। अभी तो नो कमेंट ऑन दैट. इट विल बी द सेम राइट नाउ. Thank you.
Right. Lieutenant General Zamiruddin Shah Saab, you heard it there. Now the point is that there is a three-judge bench which still needs to make a final ruling. Do you believe that there will be any broader implications if AMU's minority status is upheld or denied in any which way, any case? How is it going to have any implications?
Light for the country and for the community. I've been saying, let us not bank only on AMU. Let us have beacons right across the country, which will glow and light every facet of our lives. However, see, AMU has got a special place in the heart of Indian Muslims because at one point of time, it was the only institution educating them. Now there are several. I mean, there's University of Science and Technology in Meghalaya. There's Integral University, for which I've come to Lucknow today evening, and I'm addressing you at the airport. There are a whole lot of other universities which have taken on the torch of giving quality education to not only Muslims, but to all citizens of the country. But they are minority. They are focusing on Muslim education. Let me tell you that we are way behind the majority community as far as education and poverty is concerned. This needs to be corrected, and I'm certain that the majority community would encourage the minority community in getting a better life, getting better education, where the majority has been looking after the minority, making sure that affirmative action in taken in all these aspects, and I'm certain that they will not resent this decision.
Right. Anurag ji, what General Saab was saying, that there is an emotional connect. At one point in time, it was the only Muslim institution. It's more than 100 years old. But do you think that there is more symbolism and emotional attachment to the issue rather than, any substantial change that can happen? Because at the end of the day, as I was asking General Saab, you have to sit in an entrance exam. You have to clear that entrance exam. Then you will be you'll get the admission there. It is a process that is followed. The process is not diverted. So it is more of an emotional issue than anything else.
I think I like your point. I also believe that, look, how many students study in IMU? Close to 28,000, and Lieutenant General can correct me. Close to 30,000 odd students. So even, sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you, sir. Please continue.
There are 30,000 students presently studying in AMU.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So 30,000 students, that's what I said. So even considering 50% of them coming from one community will not make a remarkable difference. Rather than that, what Lieutenant General also echoed, and I really like the point, is that if an institute like AMU is created across all the major parts of India, across spread across, that will probably be a better one. Maybe Waqf can come in and build some really brilliant institutes. Or what I strongly opinionize is the community's demand to the government would be the overall reservation given to Muslims across all education institutions, at par with how we give it to SCSTs and NTs. That's where, if you actually make some policy relaxations, that's where the community will benefit by and large. What happens is, when you completely centralize the whole discussion emotionally and otherwise on AMU-like institutes, there is a tendency that it turns out to be a bedrock of political activism and the political opportunism and the political ground, where it doesn't serve larger interest and larger purpose for the community, but ends up becoming one notorious institute which always ends up in the news and the courts, and it really derails the whole motive. So if the motive is uplifting the community, I think there are larger aspects that we all should look at. Even if it's a reservation, why not? If the community has to be uplifted, I think at a pan-India level, there can be a demand and there can be consideration, which will benefit not just 15,000 students, but maybe 15 lakh students at once. So I think that's where we should look at.
General Saab, what do you have to say? Uplifting of the community. There are other ways, like he was talking about reservations across the country. That is going to help lakhs of students, lakhs of boys and Muslim boys and girls. Shouldn't those be the focus areas rather than shrinking this argument to a one single institution?
I personally feel that education is the only way forward. I do not believe in reservations. They are for communities which have been deprived for centuries, and if you ask for reservations, nobody's going to give them to you. That is for certain. There'll be an uproar. My only regret is that Aligarh Muslim University has been used as a purpose for political duels. We don't want that. There should be no duels about AMU. It is the Supreme Court has held that the Aziz Basha case is null and void, and I think till the three-judge bench decides, which I am certain, in their wisdom, they will have a ruling which is best for the country and for the community. Let it be. Progress will only come through education, and education. The Muslim community needs to wake up and concentrate on establishing institutions which are secular. Like we have got 4 schools which we have established in impoverished areas. One is my hometown, Sardhana. Secondly is in Muzaffarnagar, Saharanpur and Ratol. Now these are institutions which are up to class 12, because we, as Vice Chancellor, I found that Muslim children were ill-equipped to sit and qualify in open competitive examinations because their parents could not send them to quality schools. So we want to serve the purpose of establishing good quality schools which are secular. We admit students of all communities. Of course, it's a different matter that they are close to Muslim pockets. So the majority community is a little reluctant, but we are trying to encourage them to join. I have studied in an institution where there were students of all communities, and we never felt any difference. We played together and we are lifelong friends. That is what we want to do, integrate the Muslim community with the rest of the population. There's a difference between integration and assimilation. In America, you need to lose everything, your religion, your everything, and to integrate into American, or preferably marry a white woman to integrate into society. In India, that is not required. We need integration, not assimilation. And that will come through educating youngsters in good schools where they study and play together, become lifelong friends.
Yes. Anuragji, last word to you. While he's talking about integration and assimilation, also being very practical, that it may not be possible. It may just be a wishful thought that you'll get reservations all across the country in all the institutions. That may just not be possible. So they are just trying to be more practical.
Well, that's what I said. If the intention was to benefit the community by and large, fighting on one institute on all the courses may not be a very prudent argument. Of course, if the bench decides based on the historical evidence, if they're right, they would get it. But I still believe, by and large, in the right spirit and ethos, it is still not too late for organizations like WAF to step up and invest on education for the community, not just talk about encroachments and deliver instigating speeches, but they can do some real job. And there are people like Lieutenant General who are willing to invest on education and all that. They should all come together, and the right set of people governing the decisions of the Waqf and building some beautiful institution should be the focus and the way forward. Whatever it is, I mean, it's up to the judges to decide. There are boundaries beyond a point we cannot comment. But I certainly feel maybe not just reservation, but find out more avenues where the Muslim community can be accommodated and uplifted by and large. Because I strongly believe this 15,000 odd seats, out of that, maybe typical technical courses will not be more than 20% of them. And how much will it benefit over a period of time? Because, one generation to uplift and do something great, and their children's coming in after 30, 40 years, and then having the rippling effect is a long time. And if you just focus, get a moral high ground on this particular issue, get AMU reservation or minority status done, and you may celebrate, but you're not solving the real problem, is what I worry.
Right. Anuragji, Lieutenant General Zamiruddin Shah Saab will have to leave it here. Thanks so much for joining us, and thanks to our viewers for watching the Mojo Story.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.